Welcome to Reverse Reset Restore, the show dedicated to empowering transformation. I'm your host, Sally, and we explore the art of reversing limiting beliefs, resetting our thought patterns, and ultimately restoring our health, both physically and mentally. Join me as we uncover the tools, stories, and strategies that will guide you on your path to a healthier, more vibrant you. Change comes from within. Over the years, I have come to realize that the greatest trap in our life is not success, popularity, or power, but self-rejection. Success, popularity, and power can indeed present a great temptation, but their seductive quality often comes from the way they are part of the much larger temptation to self-rejection. When we have come to believe in the voices that call us worthless and unlovable, then success, popularity, and power are easily perceived as attractive solutions. The real trap, however, is self-rejection. As soon as someone accuses me or criticizes me, as soon as I am rejected, left alone, or abandoned, I find myself thinking, wow, that proves once again that I am a nobody. My dark side says, I am no good. I deserve to be punished. I deserve to be pushed aside, forgotten, rejected, and abandoned. Self-rejection is the greatest enemy of the spiritual life because it contradicts the sacred voice that calls us the beloved. Being the beloved constitutes the core truth of our existence. Henry JM Newan. Hi and welcome to this week's episode where we are exploring the feeling of rejection. Do you ever feel rejected? I have spent a lot of years battling this particular belief system. I honestly don't know when it started exactly. Maybe it was always there. I'm not sure because it's certainly not how I felt growing up surrounded by my loving family. But I know that there have been many times in my life where the ugly, insidious sense of rejection has overwhelmed me. It's caused a lot of pain and isolation. I think more than any other negative belief system, this is the one that has been most prominent in my mind. It's made me question my worth and my existence. If I was to allow myself to totally fall into its traps, I wouldn't be here today. You see, I got myself into the habit of placing my hopes and needs in other people. I wanted to be seen, to be heard, to feel valued, like anyone or everyone. And when my expectations were not or are not met, then my thoughts switch to, you're not good enough, Sally, or no one could really ever love you, or people are only interested in you when you're useful to them. Overcoming this idea, this belief, and the accompanying feelings of rejection, well, it continues to be a sticking point for me, even now. But it is lessening its grip upon me, its talons clawing and digging into the flesh of my feelings, that insidious fear that used to creep up through my bones. It's a hard one to navigate your way out of. At least that's been my experience. And yet, rejection is an inevitable part of life. Whether it's a job application, a romantic relationship, a friendship ending, a creative endeavor, or even sadly, from within our own families, we've all experienced the sting of rejection at some point. I know that I've taken it on board as a personal character assassination at times. I've spent a lot of times pondering the moments where I felt rejected, using it as proof that I was to blame, that I was less than. Back in episode 85, when friendships fail, navigating strategies for healing and closure, I talked about the common fears and frustrations we share when it comes to our friendships, and we discussed some strategies to help us shift out of the thought system of self-blame and shame, when a friendship has ended through no obvious fault of our own. So check that out if you'd like to have some helpful tips to help you heal from the loss of a friendship, particularly if it ended with you being ghosted. I also said in that episode that I would share a few examples from my own life, how I perceived the end of those friendships, and how I've moved myself beyond letting any of those ends continue to hurt me. How we respond to rejection can significantly impact our mental and emotional well-being. In this episode, we'll explore why rejection impacts us, how it affects our lives and health, and most importantly, I'm going to provide 5 strategies that you can use for overcoming rejection and building resilience. Before we dive in, I have a few questions I want you to ponder on. Give it some serious contemplation. What is your MO, your modus operandi, when you feel rejected? How do you respond? Where did you learn that response from? Have you ever considered reacting in a different way? Where do you feel it in your body when you feel rejected? How does it show up in your life? As illness, cravings, rage, shopping, headaches, sleeplessness, poor decision making? Rejection triggers a primal response in the human brain. Now, from an evolutionary standpoint, rejection was a threat to our survival. In our ancestors' time, being ostracized from the tribe meant being left vulnerable to predators. And even though our modern lives are vastly different, our brains still perceive rejection as a threat to our well-being. So, not only are we contending with this very real, primal, instinctual part of our mind, rejection taps into our deepest insecurities and fears. It challenges our sense of self-worth and belonging, leaving us feeling vulnerable and exposed. Rejection often comes with a sense of shame and humiliation as we feel judged and deemed unworthy by others. And this fear of rejection usually silences us, or at least it holds us hostage to silence. Afraid to speak up or advocate for ourselves or even express the very things we're fearing. Shannon L. Elder reminds us, when you give yourself permission to communicate what matters to you in every situation, you will have peace despite rejection or disapproval. Putting a voice to your soul helps you to let go of the negative energy of fear and regret. Allowing ourselves to be open and honest, or putting a voice to our soul, as Shannon so poetically puts it, in spite of the possibility of rejection, can be very freeing. So why don't we see it that way? Is it because we would rather be bound to our fear than our freedom? Is it because we just play into the idea that we will be rejected? Is it just habit? I'm currently looking for a new job and I've encountered frustratingly a lot of silence from potential employers, leaving me at times feeling overlooked and undervalued, and a host of other emotions crowding in. It's really disheartening to pour time and effort and energy into crafting applications only to be met with silence. Hands up if you know what I'm talking about. And if you are job hunting like me, I feel your pain. I've come to realize that this lack of response reflects more on the company's culture than on my own worth or what my resume says. While the argument that workplaces receive hundreds of applications and can't possibly respond to every applicant may have some merit, I kind of call bullshit, because the ease of technology today should make communication more accessible. This failure to extend even a standard rejection letter is a cop-out, and it speaks volumes about a company's regard for its applicants. I have found myself really wanting to call out this disregard, to email the company after weeks of silence and let them have it. Yet I don't, because I guess it's that idea of not burning all your bridges, right? Even though sometimes we need to burn the bridges and reroute the damn road. Since I've been reflecting on my job search and the way my previous employer handled my redundancy, and my personal development journey, it's led me to reevaluate how things have ended, including past friendships. What I once perceived as personal rejection, I now understand it's a lot more complex. Instead of dwelling on those losses and beating myself up, shouldering all the blame, I've reframed them as valuable lessons and opportunities for my growth. Reminding myself that it isn't, in fact, always about me. And this shift in perspective has helped me break free from the cycle of self-blame and pity that once consumed me, leading to improved mental well-being. There is another lesson in when we're wounded. We get to choose how we respond to it. We can choose to let it beat us down into submission, falling for the trap of a world that seems hell-bent to let suffering be the normal way for our existence. I don't know how many times there has been in my life where I have felt this expectation to harden up so that I could somehow measure up to our collective pain, this pain that we think is socially acceptable. I refuse to let the world and my pain turn me away from being my authentic self. And this quote from Bryant, McGill, author of Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life, really bolsters my spirits. It's something that speaks to me because it is something I have always believed in. Your suffering needs to be respected. Don't try to ignore the hurt because it is real. Just let the hurt soften you instead of hardening you. Let the hurt open you instead of closing you. Let the hurt send you looking for those who will accept you instead of hiding from those who reject you. While some ends of my friendships or situations have still left me without any closure, I have learnt to find solace in the lessons they impart. And it's actually really not that important to have that closure. We think it is. We build it up in our heads that somehow we can't go on in our lives without knowing why. Sometimes, most of the time actually, I don't think the why really matters. Maybe it's time to look at this as doors closing so that other doors of opportunities and experiences and love and worthwhile friendships can filter through. If we were to take a little time to look at those moments we fear or feel rejected, well, some of the reasons actually seem kind of obvious. Rejection often arises from social situations, right? For example, such as not being included in a social event or feeling left out by friends or experiencing a romantic rejection. We can also perceive that if you're not meeting other people's expectations, you can, feel inadequate, which lead to feelings of rejection. This is a big one because social media and influencers and all of that kind of stuff play such a huge part in our daily lives. So there's this constant comparing yourself to others, especially on social media, which can lead to obviously feeling inadequate, that you don't measure up, that other people are more successful, more beautiful, whatever the situation is. And all of that stuff can lead to a sense of you are not good enough feelings and thoughts rolling around in your mind. You might think you're going to be rejected or you're worthy of being rejected. And this is the biggest culprit in my personal rejection journey, is that harsh inner critic, that one which fuels the feelings of rejection. So when you're overly self-critical like I've been, you may interpret every setback or every perceived slight as evidence of your unworthiness. It's a rubbish way to live, by the way, and it's a hard one to kind of continually navigate through. And past experiences of rejection, especially in childhood, can create this pattern of sensitivity to perceived rejection in adulthood. So understanding the why can help us move from the pain we experience into being transformed. In my life, I've often found myself playing the role of healer, providing solace and support to those in need. Now, I've always embraced this role, naturally becoming a safe haven for others to find comfort and refuge and healing. These are friendships that I now see were seasonal, but at the time I didn't understand the concept of seasonal friendships. And so when they ended, I felt immeasurable pain and a real sense of loss and rejection. Most of us don't go into our friendships wondering when it will come to an end or if it's seasonal. No, I think we anticipate or at least hope that these people will become someone we know and love and respect and value forever. But in seasonal relationships, there comes a point when our purpose in someone's life is fulfilled and they no longer require our presence. It's been a bittersweet realization as I've grappled with the feelings of rejection when these connections naturally drift apart. But I've come to understand that sometimes, after witnessing someone's lowest moments and supporting them through some healing, they may wish to distance themselves from the reminders of their past struggles. This realization has helped me understand the end of several friendships. I had a friend who went through some trauma that I was able to support her through. Once the crisis was over, she decided to quit her job and move away for a fresh start. I completely understood that. I even helped her move, packing up her things, letting her stay with us for a few days before she left. She let me know when she had arrived at a new hometown, and then I never heard from her again. In some ways, and I'm being completely honest here, it was a relief because she is what my partner refers to as one of my emotional vampires, and I was exhausted. But there was a sadness about being ghosted, especially after all I had tried to do to keep her safe and secure in such a terrible time. I finally had the epiphany that I knew so much about her that it was, for her, probably really scary. I had seen the worst, and she needed people now around her that didn't know that part of her and of her life. It wasn't something that I'd recognized straight away, and I had done my usual, I've done something wrong routine, before I kind of just thought, Sally, stop being so self-absorbed thinking this is about you in any way, shape or form. I hadn't done anything wrong. I had been a good friend. I helped her, and that was all I could do. It was a season, and the season was over. And we gotta be okay with the seasons moving on because they are going to change regardless of whether we want them to or not. To quote a line from The Crow, it can't rain all the time. Conversely, some relationships have faltered because others perceive themselves as unable to meet the standards I personally uphold for myself. Despite my efforts to foster a judgment-free environment, some have felt inadequate in my presence. And I know this because I've actually had conversations with a few people years after the fact. My partner and I have often discussed this phenomenon, with him suggesting that my unwavering integrity may actually intimidate others. In fact, he once contemplated ending our relationship, fearing he could never match my standards. These revelations have been eye-opening, to say the least, because I've never intended for anyone to feel judged or unworthy in my presence. I mean, how many of us do? Yeah, maybe there are people out there getting a kick by creating misery for others, but I reckon if we were to dig a little deeper, we'd soon see their behaviour is trying to hide their own fears and insecurities. I think my own experiences with these emotions and these fears of being rejected have driven me to create a space of acceptance and understanding for others. That's not to say that I'm perfect and that I haven't done any rejecting either. I'm sure there are people, even now, still in my life that maybe have felt rejected by me, and I might not even be aware. The fear of rejection is a deeply ingrained aspect of human psychology, and it often manifests prominently in the context of friendships. Here's why it's often considered the number one fear of our friendship failings. Social acceptance and belongingness. Humans have a fundamental need for social connection and acceptance. Friendship provides a sense of belonging and validation, and rejection threatens the sense of belongingness. Research has shown that social rejection activates the same brain regions associated with physical pain. highlighting its significance in our lives. Vulnerability and self-worth. Friendship involves vulnerability, opening up to others, sharing personal experiences, and seeking emotional support. Rejection can be perceived as a direct attack on one's self-worth and identity, leading to feelings of inadequacy, shame, and unworthiness. People may fear rejection because they associate it with personal failure or being inadequate. Fear of abandonment. Rejection often evokes fears of abandonment or being cast aside by others. This fear may stem from past experiences of abandonment or neglect, contributing to heightened sensitivity to rejection in interpersonal relationships. Individuals may fear losing the emotional connection and support provided by friendships, leading to anxiety and insecurity. Cultural and societal influences. Societal norms and expectations surrounding friendship can exacerbate the fear of rejection. In cultures that prioritize social harmony and conformity, the fear of being ostracized or excluded from social groups can be particularly strong. People may conform to social norms and suppress their authentic selves to avoid rejection, leading to a sense of disconnection and dissatisfaction. Impact on mental health. The fear of rejection is not only a psychological phenomenon, but also has significant implications for mental health and our well-being. Research has linked the fear of rejection to increased levels of anxiety, depression, and loneliness. Chronic fear of rejection can undermine self-confidence, impair your social functioning, and contribute to a cycle of avoidance and withdrawal from social interactions. The impact of rejection extends far beyond the initial emotional pain. It can have profound effects on our mental and physical health. Repeated experiences of rejection can lead to feelings of depression, anxiety, and low self-esteem. It can also trigger unhealthy coping mechanisms such as substance abuse or self-destructive behaviors. Moreover, rejection can impact our relationships and our social interactions. It may cause us to withdraw from others, fearing further rejection or judgment, and this isolation can deepen feelings of loneliness and exacerbate existing mental health issues. And on a physiological level, rejection triggers the release of stress hormones such as cortisol, which can negatively impact our immune system, cardiovascular health, and our overall well-being. Chronic stress resulting from repeated experiences of rejection can increase the risk of developing chronic diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, and even autoimmune disorders. We've been talking about the impact of cortisol in various aspects of our lives with our Cortisol Unveiled monthly episodes dedicated to this hormone. If you're interested in how your life might be being shaped by cortisol levels and how it might impact your cognition, your weight, sleep, and heart health, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. These episodes drop on the first Tuesday of the month, and we will be running them over a 6-month period. I've included the links to the series in the show notes. Now that we've talked about the impact of rejection, and I've shared a little bit of my own experiences and how I've managed to reduce my default "I suck" mindset when it happens, I want to share with you some practical ways you can mentally combat rejection. These are all things that we've talked about in other episodes, so if you are a regular listener, this is nothing new. But it still serves as a good reminder to put it into practice if you haven't already done so. Remember, you are in control of your life and you can change it. And while we cannot always control the circumstances we find ourselves in, we always have control in how we respond to and react to what life might throw our way. We don't need to be a victim or blame others. We can empower ourselves and change our life. Here are 5 steps to help you do just that. Now just start with 1 if you need to. There's no expectation to try to dive in and do all 5 at once. Give yourself some grace to go at the pace that will work for you to make real, lifelong, and sustainable changes. Number 1. Cultivate self-compassion. Practice self-compassion by treating yourself with kindness and understanding, especially in the moments where you're feeling rejected. Recognize that experiencing rejection doesn't diminish your worth as a person. It happens to all of us, and it doesn't mean that you are anything less. You are perfect just as you are. Number 2, challenge negative thoughts. Challenge negative thoughts and beliefs about yourself that may arise in response to rejection. Reframe them with more balanced and realistic perspectives. Remember, rejection is often subjective and doesn't define your value or your potential. Number 3, build resilience. Cultivate resilience by viewing rejection as an opportunity for growth and learning rather than a reflection of your inadequacies. Focus on your strengths and your accomplishments and use rejection as motivation to persevere and strive for success. Number 4, seek support. Reach out to supportive friends, family members, or a therapist who can offer empathy, encouragement, and perspective. Talking about your feelings and your experiences with other people can provide validation and support during these challenging times. Just remember that whoever you're reaching out to, be sure that they are going to be a support system to you and not someone that's just going to make you feel even worse. Don't reach out to those people, okay? You can have them in your life, but just don't make them the people that you turn to because they're not probably going to be all that helpful. And number 5, practice mindfulness. Engage in mindfulness practices such as meditation, deep breathing, or yoga to cultivate awareness and acceptance of your thoughts and emotions. Mindfulness can help you stay grounded and resilient in the face of rejection. Next week, our episode is going to be on meditations. I'm going to take you through several of them, and that's because it's World Meditation Day, May 21st. So that would probably be a really good add-on episode for you to listen to. It's because we're going to offer a whole variety of meditations for you, whether they're personal, whether they're just about to connect you to your senses, or whether it's a practice that you can incorporate sending out love and goodwill to all people. Rejection is an inevitable part of our life, as I've said, but it doesn't have to define us. By understanding why rejection impacts us, how it affects our lives and our health, and then implementing strategies for overcoming it, we can cultivate resilience and thrive in the face of adversity. Remember, rejection is not a reflection of our worth or potential. It's simply a stepping stone on the path to growth and self-discovery. Let's embrace resilience and overcome rejection together. So join the conversation. How do you overcome rejection and cultivate resilience in your life? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments over on the Reverse Reset Restore Facebook page. As we close out this episode, I leave you with this beautiful quote from Steve Maraboli, author of Unapologetically You, Reflections on Life and the Human Experience. It's actually a good little mantra to remind yourself that sometimes we can be so focused on one door closing, we don't see the blessings of the others opening. Every time I thought I was being rejected from something good, I was actually being redirected to something better.